Testing, 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 1, 2, 3. All right, if everyone could have a seat, we're going to go ahead and get started here.
One, two, test. 1, 2. Okay, good.
All right. Well, first off, I did want to thank everyone for coming out today. I especially want to thank all of our candidates, not just for being here today, but for actually being willing to step up and run for office. We've got a lot of challenges and things that we're working through in the town, and it means a lot that we've got so many people who are willing to step up and say, hey, we want to be a part of setting the future of the town of Wellington. So appreciate all of you, not just being here today, but being willing to run. So, and for all of you, yeah, let's give them a round of applause. Okay, so for all of those in attendance, how this is going to work today, this is not a debate. This is a forum. This is a chance for you guys to get to hear the candidates talk about themselves, not about other people. We're not talking about things outside of Wellington. So we're not talking about the state of Colorado. We're not talking about Larimer County. Wellington's got plenty going on here, so we're going to keep it focused to that. So with the questions, if you haven't submitted them, please get them to someone in the back, and we'll get those up. We are going to go through the questions as quick as we can. All of the questions will be given to each of the candidates for them to go through and to answer. The candidates will each have 1 minute to answer the question. Hannah is going to be our timer right here, so she has cards for you guys to let you know when you have 15 seconds, 5 seconds, and then to stop. Please do stop. With going through the answers, these are the ground rules that all of the candidates agreed to and signed, and all of the audience, I'd like you to abide by these as well. We're keeping it Wellington related. We're keeping it respectful. Okay, you don't have to agree with everybody. We're not going to be booing people. We're not going to be shouting at people. If you disagree with them, that's totally fine. If you want to talk with one of the candidates, I would encourage you to talk with them after the forum because you might understand a little bit better where they stand after the fact. Okay, candidates will not be allowed to ask questions or respond to other candidates' questions or comments. And you are not permitted to mention other candidates or comment on other candidates' positions. Anyone who breaks the ground rules will have one warning, and then they will be asked to leave the panel if they do it again, okay? So we really do want to keep this respectful. So with that, we are going to go ahead and get things started. So if everyone could rise, we're going to do a quick prayer and a pledge. And Father God, I just thank you for the opportunity that we have just to come together and just to hear from these men and women who are willing to step up and lead our town. And I just pray that we would have a great time today. We would be able to go through and just hear a lot and understand what it is, the vision that they have, and really give the residents an opportunity to decide who it is that they think best represents them. And I just pray that we'd be gracious to one another and have a great day. Just ask these things in Jesus' name, amen. All right, let's pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance All right, thank you. You may be seated. A couple more notes just to make sure things are very clear. This is a forum that I have put on as a private citizen. So even though I sit on the Board of Trustees, this is not a Town of Wellington forum. This is not a River of Life forum. I personally, as a private citizen, have put this on. River of Life has been gracious enough to host this event for us. And so big thanks to them. My ask to all of you, this is their facility. Please take care of it like you would anything that you own, so don't make a mess of their things. We would prefer drinks stay out in the lobby, just so we don't have a mess and make a mess of that. So our moderator today will be Pastor Carlson, and he will be going through the questions. So to start things off, each of the candidates will have a couple of 2 minutes to introduce their platform and talk about what they stand for. And then there is one question that I have submitted, and then after that, we will go straight into the questions from the community. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Pastor Carlson.
All right. Again, candidates, welcome. Thanks for being here tonight. What a great forum tonight. And thank you, town, for being here and for walking through this with us. It's very important in the times that we live in. So first off, each of you will have 2 minutes to introduce yourself because none of you submitted a question to us that we would like to ask you. So therefore, let's start with the mayor, candidate Swindeman Curtis. Is that how you pronounce that? Sir, would you please stand and use the mic? I think you can just turn it to the right there or to the left. There you go. And then when you're done, if you would hand it to candidate McDonald.
I did have to write notes, so Good evening. My name is Wyatt Schwindeman Curtis. I want to thank the church and Pastor Rick Carlson for hosting the community forum. I would also like to thank the Gators for organizing this forum. Since moving to Wellington, I have felt a strong sense of community and enjoyed being involved in the community the last few years. I'm a member of the Community Activities Commission, which puts on the Easter egg hunt, the 4th of July, and the Christmas parade every year. I also sit on the Citizens Roundtable for wastewater and help develop creative ideas to fund the wastewater treatment plant. I am running to be your next mayor because we need strong leadership to guide us through our infrastructure and growth opportunities. My vision for the town of Wellington is to foster community, responsibility, and ingenuity. I want to help build the future of Wellington using these words as a guide to strengthen our home through its growth and to work towards creating a strong foundation for our community to succeed upon. Community is my #1 value because it's the most important element for growth as we look to the future. As mayor, there will be many issues that I have to decide on, and I always take community feedback as the main priority since I work and represent you all. Equally as important, responsibility will be the pivotal factor to remain focused on our infrastructure and growth development, which includes being fiscally responsible with taxpayer dollars. Lastly, with ingenuity, I want to make certain we are being as creative as possible, turning over every stone and applying to every grant possible to ensure our financial success as a town. If you have any questions, please visit my website. It is www.wyattforwellington.com. Thank you again for this opportunity, and let's build our future together. Thank you.
Thank you, Wyatt. Good evening. I'm Ashley McDonald. I'm a candidate for mayor this evening. I'd also like to thank the church and the Gators for hosting this forum. It's always a wonderful opportunity to take part in a diverse group of forums hosted by multiple groups because there's always a different set of questions that come out of each one and an opportunity to interact with a different demographic of the community. I moved to Wellington about 10 years ago with my family because it was an affordable community and the school district had a reputation for producing some of the best students and athletes in Larimer County. So when we moved to Wellington, we moved into a homeowners association, and I decided to get involved in a local initiative to build a community park. Through the initiative to build the community park, I was introduced to a group of diverse opportunities like the Community Activities Commission, the Chamber. At that time, we had an Economic Development Committee, and additionally got to be a part of the Foundation of the Parks Advisory Board. Having an opportunity to participate in all of those, we built the community park through a ballot initiative, proving that we can do things fiscally responsibly. Some things about me personally: I coach here in Wellington, both at the middle school and recreation department, so I have an opportunity to interact with our youth often. I also work for the fire district. One of the most important items of my platform is providing public safety and making sure that public safety is a priority moving forward. Public safety comes in a variety of forms: our infrastructure, our roads, our school systems. So bringing experienced leadership to the community, providing diverse perspectives, and having a team-oriented approach are all things that I plan to bring as mayor. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for hosting us. Thank you, Gators, for putting us together. My name is Kaylor Shosi. So I actually grew up in Wellington, going on 25 years here now. My family moved here because they liked the values and the way the community was put together. The reason I decided to run for mayor this year is because I want to make sure that I can continue what Wellington has been and move it into the future in a responsible way. So my platform basically consists of affordability, safety, and then responsible growth. As you guys know, with the growth we've had recently, it boomed, and it boomed faster than we were expecting, and now we're catching up with the water issues and things like that. And what I want to do moving forward is just make sure that we can maintain it properly and do everything we can to reduce the costs to the citizens. And I also want to maintain safety in the community. With the growth, we have seen a lot of increase in instances where the police are needed. And so I want to address issues like that also along with the roads and the infrastructure, especially with the school going in. That's going to be an issue coming up. And then when it comes down to responsible business growth, I want to make sure that when businesses are coming in, that we are working with them well so we can have them help ease the cost to the citizens, because they're going to end up paying more on their end for their resources and things of that nature. They can help relieve some things for us. When I grew up here, I was in 4-H. I did all that good stuff, and currently I'm a youth pastor at a church in Wellington. So I stand behind what I consider the truth, and I will stand on that. And I believe in integrity and honesty, and that's why I am running for mayor. I want to do so in a way that can lead our town at this pivotal moment forward and do it well. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Dave Wiegand. I am a current member of Zion Lutheran Church, great little church here in town, and I've been out here 6 years now, moved out from Fort Collins, and wanted to get back into a small community like we have here. I grew up in Mount Zion, Illinois, and finally hit 1,000 people when I graduated from high school. Small towns have such uniqueness to it, and we should be proud of what we are, build on what we got, and support our businesses as much as we can. You know, things that we got to do here is listen to the people. I mean, if they say they're hurting, they're hurting. So we need to keep that in mind. Whether they're young, people living from paycheck to paycheck, or old like me. I mean, I think the senior citizens are definitely getting overlooked a lot out here. And, you know, with inflation happening the way it is right now, 7.5% the last time, you're living paycheck to paycheck, Social Security to Social Security, that is making such a big impact. So anytime the city does something that impacts the citizens, we have to keep that in mind. We got to keep, you know, we got to put the people, we got to put our businesses very first, and just understand that any of this impact, we have to understand and try to minimize it as much as we can. You know, civil liberties and personal freedoms, I think it's very important. I think that's going to be getting attacked a lot. And I think it all starts here at the local level. And, you know, the Constitution was made to protect citizens from the government, not the government from the citizens. So we got to keep that in mind. And it goes back, we work for the citizens. Whether you're a mayor, whether you're a trustee, whether you're on the city board, everybody is working for the citizens and the business. So you got to do what's right for them. And that should be it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Lowry Moyer, and I am a resident of Wellington. I've been here for going on 6 years. My husband and 4 children and I live in one of the historic homes here in town, the Hatfield House. I have a background in grant writing and community outreach and development through my position as Senior Development Director with Greeley-Weld Habitat for Humanity, where I used to serve as the Faith and Development Director. One of my great passions in life is people and serving others. And so I decided to run as trustee because I want to help preserve this small town feel that we all love while seizing all of the opportunities that we have with the growth moving forward. I want to foster an honest and open line of communication to alleviate misinformation. And I really, really, really want to stress this here. I want each and every person in this town to feel seen and heard. And I want you to know that your voice is important and you are important to this process. I want to strive to seek opportunities to innovate as we look at our challenges, and I want to turn them into exciting opportunities for our town. And I also want to say thank you to the church and to the Gators for putting this on. I think this is an exciting time for our town, and I really want to be a part of it, and I want to serve you all in the best way possible. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Brian Mason. I'm running for the Board of Trustees as well. I'd also like to thank the River Life Church tonight, as well as the Gators for putting this forum on. Great to have you all out tonight. just a little bit about myself. I've been a resident of Larimer County since 1998 and moved up to Wellington in 2016. Absolutely love it up here. Everybody that I've met over the last number of years has been nothing but wonderful folks. We've got some great community members. As far as that goes, I've been pretty passionate about politics my entire life. I continue to be well educated on events both on a national and a state level, and really want to get involved kind of with Wellington's local politics. We've got a lot going on around here, you know, certainly as far as the water rates, that's on everybody's mind, and I think what we need to do is kind of continue the work that the board's done up to this point and make sure that we can keep Wellington affordable. I think the number, you know, obviously, you know, folks moving up here from Fort Collins, things like that, they're looking at housing prices, water prices, and there's quite a bit going on there. So I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran, so I've worked on some things in the past that are pretty difficult projects and that sort of thing, and I look forward to getting out there and working with you guys and making sure that we keep this community somewhere that everybody gets together and wants to continue to be. So I think it's very important that we listen to our town citizens and make sure that we are pro-business, fiscally responsible, and really be pro-community. So with that, I think that's about it for me.
If you would, could I ask that you hand that mic back down this way? There's mics there that we've scattered across there. That way we're not using all one mic tonight. That'd be great. Number one should come down here if we could. There we go. There we go. All right. Thanks,
working?
guys.
Okay. So, my name is, hello everybody. I'm glad you all could come out. There's a lot of folks running for a bunch of seats, so it's great to see this level of interest and that folks want to be part of this all. My name is Tim Whitehouse. I'm actually one of your incumbent trustees now, and I'm running for re-election. I'm been a resident of Wellington since 2009. I'm a timber framer for the last 22 years, and I own a shop on the west side of town over by the new school district. So, 2017, I was appointed to the Board of Trustees to fill a vacancy. I was reelected in 2018. 2018, I was also put onto the Planning Commission. I sit on 2 county boards, for the waste shed, and a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff I'm involved in. I've been working really hard on this stuff for the last 5 years. So the last couple of years, the town of Wellington has had some real challenges. I mean, you all know that. I mean, we got the issues of the water treatment plant and the wastewater treatment plant and the rates. We got some transportation issues around here, the bridge, some stuff down by the school that needs to be addressed, the Main Street on Cleveland Avenue has some real big drainage issues. And last but not least, we've had COVID going on for the last 2 years, which has made things a little strange and a lot more stressful. So some of our successes is I've got a 4-page single-space sheet of all the things the town did in the last year, but the comp plan, we're about to pull the trigger on $80 million of the infrastructure. We got a new town hall open up in a couple months, increased number of grants. And the other thing I'd like to say is that our town has the best staff we've ever had. These people have risen to the challenge, and I'm really proud to work for them, with them. But some of my main priorities are going to be like trying to find federal funding to reduce the water rates and sewer rates, and work on more additional citizen engagement.
Hi everyone, my name's Lisa Cholet and I'm running to be your trustee. First, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out. I really wasn't sure what to expect, and it's very heartening to see that this many people really care about who's gonna lead this town for the next 4 years. I'd like to thank the pastor, the church, and most importantly, John and Christine for all the hard work that they've done. They put together this wonderful voter's guide with their daughter's help, so I encourage you to look at it because they volunteer a lot of time to keep people informed. So, I'm not a politician, never envisioned this happening, but several months ago, I really started getting involved. I spent a lot of time looking over the budget. That is what I do. I have 30 years of experience in construction and finance. I'm currently a consultant that helps small businesses in the construction industry that are struggling, and I help them become efficient and profitable. And in a lot of ways, everything that's going on with the growth in Wellington, this is what I do. This is my specialty. So I felt like I could be of service to my community, and this is why I'm here. I'm a Colorado native, 5th generation. I'm married. My husband's in the audience. He's from a very small town in Nebraska. We have 5 children, and we wanted to have our son live in a town where kids can still play outside, and neighbors are neighbors, and people don't ignore each other. And I love this town, and I have a lot to give to you all, and I really hope that you'll allow me to. I believe in transparency. I believe in responsibility, especially fiscally. I believe in the school district here. I am heavily involved in PSD. I volunteer a ton of time. I was on the boundary committee that helped determine whether or not Wellington could get its own middle school, high school before I even lived here. So I work at the middle school with the principal, getting ready for the high school to open up to make sure that the pathways here are for the kids. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
For the kids that live here.
Okay, that's kind of hard to follow. I kind of got that, number 7. Good evening. Thank you guys so much for coming out this evening. My name is Sherelle Teets, and I am running for one of your trustee positions. The reason why I have gotten involved in a lot of the aspects of what's going on in our town is because I was that little girl driving a tractor in the 4th of July parade with the Antique Tractor Club many, many years ago. I have lived in Wellington for close to 20 years, but my roots are here. My family has pretty much grown up in this area, so we're future pioneers, so we've been in this area for over 100 years. My main goal is to work on transparency in our government. It's also to be able to communicate with our citizens when there's issues, and that we also notify or have a system set up where access to information doesn't feel like you're pulling teeth to gain access to what you feel you should know and need as a citizen. I think you should be able to go online and be able to enter something into the Town of Wellington's webpage and be able to view that information openly. It seems like there's a lot of hiccups in my own experience trying to find out information here in Wellington, and I want to help alleviate some of that because I think moving forward, if residents are aware, they have the access to the information they need, it's going to relieve a lot of confusion moving forward for everybody. I think that having children growing up here, my son just graduated Pooter a few years back, and I have another little one running around, and I'm a 17-year-old. I really, truly just want to work towards achieving what our residents are wanting to see for Wellington. Not a vision and a goal of 7 people, but a vision and a goal of our entire community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, candidates. Good answers and good discussion tonight. Okay.
That'd help. So I know one of our candidates, hopefully will be here. He's probably held up at work, but one of our other candidates was not able to be here, so she did provide a statement, and that is for Melanie Murphy. And so her statement is, "I'm sorry I'm not able to attend. We will be out of the state carrying out my mom's final wishes on what would have been her 62nd birthday. I appreciate the invitation and look forward to chatting with you all in the future. Thank you for your understanding." So I just want to make sure I read that.
Okay, with that said, we'll get to the first question. And each of you, again, will have 2 minutes. And 1 minute, that's right. You'll have 1 minute. And so please follow that rule if you possibly can. If not, we're going to invoke the pastor rule and security will remove you. I'm kidding. I don't know. I'm glad they don't invoke the 2-minute rule on me in this church, that's for sure. So with that said, we'll go to candidate Schwindeman Curtis. What is your biggest accomplishment if you're in office? And if you're not, if you're new, then in 5 years, what do you believe will be your biggest accomplishment?
Thank you for that question. I am not in office currently.
Right.
I actually work in supply chain right now. So, after 5 years, I mean, our terms are only 4 years, but after we are done with our term, I would hope that we just, for me, I would like to see Wellington better off than where we have started at. I think the current Board of Trustees, the current mayor, have been working really hard these last 4 years with what they were handed. And I think we are being handed a little bit better of a situation than they were handed. So my hope is that we'll be able to definitely have, we won't be stressed about the water rates anymore. We won't be stressed about the sewer rates anymore. We should be able to move on and start focusing on the future of Wellington. So that's my hope.
Great. Thank you. Candidate McDonald?
I'm so glad to be past the introductions. So that is by far the worst and most uncomfortable part of participating in forums. I do currently sit on the Board of Trustees. This is my second term as a trustee. My goal for the end of my term as a trustee and as the mayor, it will fall right in the middle whether I win the election as the mayor or not, would be primarily to see the completion and cut the ribbon on the water treatment plant and the wastewater treatment plant. That's really the gateway into the next 20 years for this town. Additionally, I would like to focus on making sure that that intersection outside the high school is really safe. That thoroughfare along Highway 1 is going to be impacted significantly by the growth, by the dump that we have coming in northern Larimer County and the high school. So addressing that public safety issue itself is one of the goals that I hope to accomplish in that short time. Thank you.
In the time that I would be mayor if I am elected, I would like to see afterwards a town that's prospering, a town that's not struggling with its water bills, a town that is a safe place and a great place to raise your children in a good community. I'd be able to do so because of the current board and mayor. I mean, they laid the groundwork for everything that needs to be accomplished in these coming years. And we just need to make sure that we go about it right and we budget our money well moving forward to maintain that. And that's what I would like to see is just a prosperous town, a town that's not worried about their water bills and their safety. Just a good place for families. So that's what I would like to see.
What I'd like to see is that within the next 5 years, again, positive growth. Any future growth has to pay for itself. We cannot expect our current citizens to be paying for future growth. So we have to have the plans, whether it's impact fees or whatever, in place for that. Another thing too, and I think as critical as water is here and how it impacts everything that we do, that I'm kind of surprised that we do not have a water board here like Fort Collins and a lot of the other smaller communities do, that actually pulls from the local community. We got some great people here, engineers, all kinds of, should not be a political position. It should be for the benefit so that trustees, everybody knows exactly what's happening and the best way to proceed. I'm done.
My own microphone. When I am done with my 4 years, if I'm elected, what I would like to see is for the members of this town to be thriving and to be proud of the town that we live in and feel secure and stable. Obviously, I have a passion for affordable housing, but that's not just building affordable homes. That's looking at resources that are available to us, whether it be through grants or other avenues, to keep housing affordable for the residents that have lived here for a very long time. We can look at circuit breaker tax caps so that our property taxes don't continue to grow exponentially with the growth that we're seeing. We can look at other kinds of caps on our water bills and our sewer bills so that those individuals in town that are making between a certain AMI don't have to be cost burdened in their homes. We want you to be able to stay here and enjoy being here.
Yeah, so as far as the next 4 years go, really, really we do need to promote responsible growth. The town needs to be able to pay for the obligations that we have, and we need to not hinder residents with, larger fees and that sort of thing. Obviously, transportation is going to be a big one with the high school coming in. Cleveland, as well as the intersection there on Highway 1, obviously is going to be quite congested, so we're going to have to look at some of those things and what we're going to be able to do there. I think there's a strong need for potentially having a police department in Wellington. I know town of Severance is not paying all that much more than we are currently for the number of officers. They've got 6 or so, I think, officers on duty at any given time, where we've only got maybe 1 or 2 sheriffs. So we'd love to see a police department come up here. And, potentially, we need to start thinking about increasing town amenities, but also, need to make sure that we're going to be able to pay for them at the same time. I know lots of folks would love to see a rec center or something like that up here. But once again, we need to make sure that we're able to pay for those and consider wants and needs before we can do that. So,
Thank you. Thank you. I was going to say, I think my biggest accomplishment so far is the 5-year process that we have been involved in to get these water and wastewater treatment plants up and running. I mean, the permitting process is absolutely horrendous through the state. Takes years. We had to revisit it and threw out an old design and started over on water again. So we have been digging at this stuff constantly for years. It's like, oh, we're actually going to start moving dirt. We're just about ready to start moving dirt in the next few months. So I'm really proud of that. I mean, it has been a long, hard slog, and we've had a lot of folks working really hard on it. So that's the thing I'm be most proud of right now.
Okay, so if I was elected, my biggest accomplishment in 5 years would kind of be twofold. It would be building on the work that we did with the sewer roundtable. I was on that with Wyatt, really pushing for out-of-the-box thinking so that we're not raising sewer and water rates anymore, but we're looking at being fiscally efficient with the money that we do have, seeking grants, and any other way that we can pay for it that isn't on the taxpayers' backs. I want to make sure that the disabled veterans and the senior citizens on fixed incomes aren't freaking out every time their bill comes, and that they know they can have water and fresh water and great tasting water, which will come with the building of this new facility, which I'm very excited about. And that the new high school feels connected to the community and the community feels connected to the high school. I think that's super important. We have a unique opportunity here, and I want to be a part of that.
I would say in 5 years, so our terms are 4 years, so hopefully I'm rerunning again for my next term as trustee. But I would say I would really, truly like to see a proactive instead of a reactive approach to everything that happens here in Wellington. So, and that's moving from your budget, the water plant, responsible growth, where we are not growing so fast that we are raising rates on residents, like the water rates and whatnot. But that's where I'd like to see is where Wellington is like, you want a rec center? Sure, we have money in CIP project funds to be able to allocate to start building a rec center. So that would be my main goal, is to have a proactive approach instead of a reactive approach for Wellington.
Okay, thank you, candidates. We will now go to the second candidate in for mayor as well as trustees. So that way everyone gets an opportunity to be first and last, okay? So candidate McDonald, what are you as a candidate going to do to bring transparency to the public at large on topics such as how the budget is being allocated and what is going with capital improvement projects?
Well, transparency is always a topic of conversation when you're talking to a group of people that are running for a board. Anytime you're dealing with taxpayer dollars, there's a demand to the community to provide transparency. I think some things that we have done really well as this board that I'd like to continue to see us do is have more community engagement through the citizens groups like the the citizens group we put together for addressing the water rate issue. When you involve citizens in those community groups to help share and spread your message, they get to hear all of the same information that you're hearing as a trustee, and they have access to all of that information and can provide it in a way that's more easily distributable than trying to just post it on a website. So that's why I really think that having more community forums and community groups to help be engaged in this decision making is going to be important for transparency moving forward.
So I believe that transparency is going to be best served by, I mean, she said it already, community involvement, but on top of that, we just need to be really aware of where our money's going as the citizens, and I think it's important for us to post everything that we have on the town website. I know they already do, but there's not a fine breakdown of things like that. Like, we don't really know where the money from the water fund going to the general fund, what that general expense is in total. Things like that would be better suited to be broken down so we understand exactly where that money is going or how we can budget that money better. And just being honest and working with integrity and working with a team of people that all have that same frame of mind, I think we'll do everything we need to do when it comes to transparency.
Okay, candidate Moyer.
So I believe that communication is key. I would stay here till 11 o'clock tonight and talk to each and every one of you if you wanted to. As part of my job, community outreach is a huge piece of it. And so I think that delivering the information in whichever way it wants to be received is really important, right? Some of you may prefer mail. Some of you may prefer email. Some of you may like social media. However it is that we can reach the people of this town, we need to be trying every avenue. And I think that it is important to include people in those roundtables like we've experienced this year, because citizen input is how we're going to drive this bus. So again, come see me afterwards if you want to. I'm honest and I'm open and I'll speak from the heart, and that will continue over the next 4 years.
Yeah, so I pretty much agree with everything that's been said so far. I think transparency can be a difficult thing, right? Not everybody wants to go digging through the town municipal code, right, and trying to find some detail hidden in subsection, X thing. The town's done a number of things over the years that, such as the budget bonanza, that sort of thing, where citizens can come out and, really dig into things, see what's going on. And really, we need to kind of continue to do that going forward, maybe make some more options like that available to the town. Certainly the website is a there's certainly things that can be done there to help make that a little more easily navigable, that sort of thing. So yeah, really it's about, and certainly what I'm about is, you can always approach me anytime. If you see me out, I visit a lot of local businesses all the time. If you see me out, please feel free to come ask me about things. I am more than happy to have a conversation with anybody here just about what's on your mind. So.
Yeah, this is an interesting question, transparency. We're talking about transparency, or we're talking about engagement. So you have to understand the rules that everybody who works for the town and the trustees, everything falls under the Colorado Open Records Act, and everything falls under the Sunshine Laws. Pretty much anything we do, our emails are discoverable. So we do that. It's all out there. The board packets are on the website. I can tell you I was part of the group that tried to tune up the functionality of the website because it didn't work that well, but it's working better. So again, town website's been upgraded, and then from the standpoint of engagement or transparency, we're doing Zoom meetings. We have streams of our of the meetings are now on YouTube on a channel. So that stuff is all out there.
Okay, so as far as transparency, one of the things that I would like to see is probably more what people mean, which is accessibility to information and being informed of what's going on instead of seeing a social media post about a $9 million town hall and not understanding what you're seeing and thinking we're building that next week. Accessibility is really, really important. And I know a lot of you, you don't like social media. My husband deleted it off his phone. The website, like Tim said, is really hard to navigate sometimes. Links to the meetings can sometimes be hard to find. I would like to add ease of access for those who want to be engaged. I would like to see every roundtable moving forward be structured like the sewer roundtable, where it's all citizens, no trustees. I don't think trustees need to be part of the decision-making process to suggest to the trustees. That doesn't make sense. We need to open the loop and let people be more engaged and informed.
Okay, so if any of y'all know me, transparency is definitely one of those things that I am completely serious about. So I found this in trying to explore things myself. Like I said, gaining access to information, how to fill out a core request if you want access to that information. I truly feel there should be videos set up on the Town of Wellington's webpage to walk you through point by point on how to access information appropriately, how to ask the right questions so you can get the answers you're looking for. But I also think once or twice a year, we should open up meetings for each of the boards where people can come learn how to access this information, but also learn how to get better engaged with the community. So say 1 month it's the finance department and they show you how a budget's broken down, where your funds are going, and they explain it to you on a resident to understand, not on stuff that people cannot understand as residents.
Okay, we will come back to Swindleman Curtis first. Oh, okay. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, everybody has their own unique talents there. And I know we got some great people here that work in situations where transparency is extremely valuable. And that's the people we should look at how to develop that within our community. You know, big thing that we need to keep in mind here is perception. You know, if just kind of like the new city hall, the perception that everybody has right now, or a lot that's really not into the know, is, you know, it's a big waste of money. But when you start digging into it and when you start getting knowledgeable about it, you know, we probably were at that point, we needed it. But but the problem is if we're perceiving something, people need to go out there and explain it and tell us exactly why it is necessary, why we should be supporting it, and maybe not necessarily after the fact. So again, we got to be proactive on this.
Okay.
So for transparency, I mean, everyone's kind of hit the same point, and I will hit the same point also, is the Citizens Roundtables are going to be super useful. I sat on the Wastewater Citizens Roundtable. I know that the board's actually going to be voting, I think, next week on a finance roundtable for citizens. So there's a lot coming, and as long as we continue to do those roundtables, I think it will be super important for everyone. And that includes getting the community involved. We also need to figure out a way to reach everyone in the community. I know there was a point brought up on social media. Well, not everyone has social media, so how do we reach everyone in the community that doesn't have that access? So we need to make sure we're transparent across all boards, and making the website also more accessible would be awesome. I know that's something Mahela has been working on. She's new as the communications person, I think in the last year, and she's been doing a great job, but we need to make sure we keep that progress going. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you, candidates. Next question for candidate Shasi. Will you support the town of Wellington to form our own police department with funding from our budget and not just from ticket revenue so that we do not become a ticket town? Everyone's listening.
Well, yeah, all of you know we do not like speed traps. We do not want to become the ticket town. The police funding, obviously, we need to pursue grants and things like that to even get the idea started. It's going to be a big expense to start. Once it's started, it's going to be really affordable. I mean, I was looking at Severance's numbers. I think it's only a couple $100,000 difference between them and us when we have a sheriff, and there's 2 of them here, give or take, and then they have 6 police and 1 chief. So once it is in action, it'll be something that we can afford with what we're affording now. And right now, we're not a ticket town. So we just need to make sure that we address those issues and pursue all the grants and things that we can to make it affordable, so it doesn't become, like an issue they had, over an alt or none a couple years back with that issue. So that's what I would say about that.
No one likes the ticket town.
The Mason, I believe. Yes. And once we get through this question, we're going to get it simple. John just said, let's just go left to right. So it's okay. But we're going to finish this question with the form that we have now, and then we'll start the next question left to right. So you get to go first every time.
Absolutely, I would absolutely support a police department up here in Wellington. As I was kind of speaking to that earlier, yeah, I mean, Severance, we're paying just about $100,000 less than they are, and they've got dedicated officers up there. So I'd really like to see something like that come up here. Certainly, we also want to look into grants and that sort of thing. If there's money out there that we can pull in and do that type of thing, we should absolutely be out there and trying to get every cent that we can. So. It doesn't have to be funded 100% with town funds. We should get out there, make sure we're getting all the pennies to make that happen. So, but yeah, I think it's absolutely necessary. Certainly, we don't want to become a ticket town. That's not, I don't think, in anybody's interest here. But it would be very cool to have something like that up here. So.
So again, just say it's not interested in having a ticket town. I got a ticket out in alt for something really quite silly, but quite expensive. I think the town actually is beginning to look or is looking at this, and I think it's about a 2-year process to get a police department, just to transition, train people, and there's actually a lot of hardware and training that all has to be paid for if you're new to the force. So, but I'm supportive looking at it. I mean, I think we're just about there. I mean, the costs for the sheriffs they've given us a couple raises recently and some admin costs, which they are now passing along to us, which is just how I guess the world is. So, I'm supportive of looking at it, and then maybe we'd have a little more accountability to the people in the town here. So, and also just say, the sheriffs are here, but there's also mutual aid agreements. So whether we had a police department here or not, there would still be a mutual aid agreement with the county.
I've actually gotten this question quite a bit in the last couple days for some reason. I'm definitely open to it. I think the sheriffs that we have right now have really stepped up their game and are doing a great job. I would like to see at some point that we have our own police station. Like Tim said, it is very expensive and it is a bit of a process, but it's something, nothing happens quickly, and I would definitely like to see that with an emphasis on the community connection. I don't want to see us become a ticket town. However, I will encourage all of you, do not speed in the school zones. Because that's where you should be getting the ticket if you do. But yes, I think that having our own police force connected to our town would be wonderful. But keep in mind, everything costs money, and there isn't always free money to be had. So wants versus needs, we have safety now. Let's address the needs that we have today and worry about that stuff maybe a couple years from now.
So I truly think that this should be left up to our residents and put to a vote. So there is a lot of people that love LCSO that works here in town with us already. Officer Sherry has been awesome. Jim Lafferty was amazing. Officer Reardon was also a great guy, a little more quiet. But I think that has to be a decision that our whole town makes, because if you were to actually place a police station here and you were to put a chief into it, the trustees are the ones that appoint that chief. So I would want to make sure that the residents were the ones that were being allowed to vote on who was going to be their chief. And I think that that's a big thing. So I think there's a lot of things to look at. I want to say 2021 Severance's budget was 1.3 million for law enforcement, and we are about 1.5 for LCSO right now.
Okay, thank you.
So we are about 2 to 4 years out from probably having a police station here, or our own police force. And I agree with everyone. We don't want to be a ticket town, but we also want to make sure we are being safe. And I think we're big enough now that we will definitely need a police station, a full-time police force here sooner than later. So with the police force, there's a lot of front-end costs that happens, that you have to do the cars, their salaries, their benefits, all that fun stuff. So it's going to be a lot of big upfront costs, but we need to make sure that we are ready for that and we're not in a sticky situation. So, and then after that, the cost will be much better because LCSO it definitely does cost a lot of money right now. So that's all I have.
Thank you. I'd like to start with challenging the question with a question. Why do we think that we need our own police force at this time to begin with? Is it because we don't feel safe, or is it because we believe it will enhance our sense of community? About 8 to 10 years ago, we did a community survey that had 3 items on it: a community police station, a recreation center, and a community park. The community voted, and they ranked a community park, followed by a recreation center, followed by our own police force. All of the candidates are correct. It is extremely expensive to stand up a police force. There is the facility, there is the staff, there is the ongoing training, and the equipment. So before we talk about engaging in something like this, as we've talked about multiple times up here between wants and needs, is it a want or is it a need? Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting time here in Wellington. I think with a few of the changes that we've had, we're starting to see an increase in crime right now, and I think we're going to see a lot more of it too. And hopefully I'm wrong. I think the county is doing a great job here. We got some good support people here. I think we do need to walk slowly on this. The county's getting more expensive every year, but guess what? If you had your own police force here, it's going to keep getting more and more expensive too. So it all goes hand in hand. And again, I think it all goes back to, slow decisions, make sure that whatever it is, that we can afford it. We can't start throwing a whole bunch more expense on our citizens than what we currently have. So like I say, it has to make sure it pays for itself too.
Okay. Moyer? Thank you.
So I believe that as we're growing, yes, we are going to eventually probably need to address this problem and look at bringing a police force into town. My choice would be to be proactive about it, and right now, while it's a discussion, start looking into the cost and the management of bringing something like that into the town. That way we don't run up against an issue where we're scrambling at the last minute and trying to make decisions and feeling put in a corner. So I believe looking at resources, looking at what it takes, developing a plan, and being strategic about it now and over the next few years so that we're ready when it's time is the best way to go about that. Also, I do believe that there are resources out there for just about anything as long as you're willing to look. So I would be willing to put that work in over the next few years and figure out how we could do it without putting that money on the taxpayers or the burden on the taxpayers. And also, I think we need to preserve the relationships that the sheriffs in town have started building with the community and transfer those over.
Okay, real quick. I apologize for miscommunicating. I made a complicated process. I communicated horribly, so this is on me. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue working down one seat at a time. Wyatt is not going first every time. So Dave, you're first on next question, and then Lowry. So we're just going to go down and back. Next question, we'll start next seat down and back, and then all the way through. So I apologize. I made a mess at the beginning, but that's what we're going to do moving forward.
That helps, because I was confused.
All right. Everything clear as mud? All right. Next question. What plans do you have to keep housing in Wellington affordable?
I think part of what we're doing right now, they've got the, I forget the exact name of the term, but with the codes, they're trying to streamline that and keeping everything unified and uniformed right now. I think that's good. I think we do need to slow up the actual approving of it right at the moment, because I know there is some flaws in it right now with some wording, and we want to make sure everything's as exact as it can be. But you gotta have consistency in when builders are out there trying to build, they gotta know what they're up against, okay? I used to build homes back in the days. I mean, trying to fight the city and, going through and getting everything permitted and getting all the water taps and all that. I mean, it can be a war debt there. But again, just, making sure that we keep everything as consistent we can. I know that's a bad answer, but go from there.
All right, so I've built almost 40 affordable homes through my work with Habitat for Humanity, and that's the first thing I will say is I would love to see partnerships with nonprofits come into town that are going to build affordable communities within our great space that we have here. We are not landlocked here. We do have the room, so I'd like to see partnerships like that. I would also like to see housing affordability come through policy change. So that's these circuit breaker tax caps for people that fall within a certain income. That's also looking at land use code, which I know nobody wants to look at right now, but looking at how we can maybe change the lot size that we're requiring so that you can build a smaller home that's more affordable. Looking at energy efficiency and giving credits for that, requiring developers to come in and build X amount of affordable units for the number of homes that they're building. So we take that growth and we take that opportunity and we make them do it. I could go on for hours, y'all.
Yeah, so I think this is a difficult one. Certainly, I agree with a lot of things that have been said here already. Certainly, partnering with nonprofits, I think, is a very cool thing. But I do want to be very clear on something. I don't think that the town should be, as far as taxpayers go, subsidizing any type of, from a tax benefit. I don't think the town should be spending money on that sort of thing. But I would agree that, certainly as far as zoning goes and that sort of thing, I would not have an issue with, seeing more apartments and that sort of thing up here in Wellington. The fact of the matter is, we've got a lot of students down at CSU, that sort of thing, that, they graduate, move out of the house, that sort of thing. They want to come up here and buy a house, and the fact of the matter is, they can't do that right now. There's just, the houses are just way too expensive. So I would love to see, some type of multifamily units, that sort of thing, get the zoning sorted out, and maybe we can see, our kids be able to have an affordable place to come up here, so.
Yeah, I was going to say, affordability is always relative. I mean, certainly prices are going up. Yeah, I'm not sure. I have to say I'm not a subject expert on this, but my understanding there's federal tax credits that the developers get, and I don't know if there's stuff on the state or the county. I don't think this isn't an issue just here in our town or just in this region. I think it's a national issue. And I don't know what the solution looks like. I mean, maybe it's, building smaller houses. I would say a series of mix of different types of housing types, whether it's all single family. Don't know if that's the best choice for everyone. So again, not entirely sure what that answer is going to be, and I'm not convinced that the town of Wellington has the cash to even try to bootstrap anything like this. I don't think we can't do it.
Affordable housing, is that a thing in Colorado right now? I've lived here my whole life. I've never seen anything like it. So I think that it's a multi-pronged situation. Partnerships with things like Habitat for Humanity or developers with income caps and price caps on houses are definitely great ideas. There are also different kinds of houses that can be built. I have a client who's a developer who does post-frame buildings. Your pole barn dominiums are a thing. And they are hundreds of $1,000s less to build, stronger in the wind, hold more snow. Those are the kinds of houses we need to look at, out-of-the-box houses. I don't agree with smaller lots. I don't know about you, but the Marshall Fire kind of scared me. I don't want my neighbors right on top of me, and I don't think people who are just buying their first home really want to be crammed right next to someone else. There is an American dream, and I think Wellington can think outside the box and provide that for our kids that live here and kids who want to live here or other families.
Affordable housing. So we are in the building business, and I can tell you right now, there is no such thing as affordable building materials. I would love it when it eventually gets back that way. So I heard a lot of comments about the footprint, and we've got a lot of land here, and I would prefer not go into our agricultural brothers and sisters. I would prefer that we focus on a lot of empty lots that we have sitting here in Wellington already. But I do not want to take our building out further and encroach on a lot of the people a lot of the land that's been here for many, many years. I said working with partnerships with them is way better than saying that we want to go ahead and move into the land. So the multifamily units are awesome. Smaller lots, I'd say decent. But what I would say is looking at a blueprint of like 1,000 square foot home and transitioning to that. Some people don't want big yards, so they'll buy there if they don't want big yards.
So affordable housing is definitely a statewide issue. We are definitely, I think every municipality, county, town is talking about this right now. But definitely agree with what mostly everyone has said. So the nonprofit partnerships with like Habitat for Humanity. Something that I would like to see focused on also is, Wigan brought up earlier, is we don't have housing for seniors. So how do we find affordable housing for seniors too? So I think that's going to be a big thing that we're going to have to look forward to in the next 4 to 10 years. Is how do we make sure our seniors feel like they can stay in Wellington? So yeah.
Thank you, Wyatt. Affordable housing, it is a crisis across Colorado and in our nation. And what we can do is we can start to look at some of the communities around us that have done it well. Through opportunities at CML and other trustees who have participated in like the Larimer County affordable housing groups, we've learned of different opportunities. For instance, in the mountain communities, it's very difficult for employees to live in the communities in which they work. And so they've been dealing with the affordable housing crisis for a long time. So looking at some of the policies that they've implemented and practices will give us a good start. Additionally, we have to be very intentional about our growth. We always throw an adjective before growth: strategic, intentional, meaningful, whatever. But I think it has to be very intentional. We have to be very intentional with where we want to see these multifamily or affordable housing places come in to have the highest and best benefit to our community.
So I don't really want to beat a dead horse. But yeah, affordable housing, it's going to be an issue. It's continuing to be an issue. The best way to go about it is work closely with the developers, be responsible when we're moving forward. There's a lot of opportunities to work with the nonprofits. Obviously, everybody said everything I'm going to say, but I'll say it again. And on top of that, as long as we work as a team and we're really aware of what we want for this community and what you guys tell us that you want, we'll just make sure that we do that. We're here for you guys, and if you're concerned about it, we're going to figure out a way to make it happen. We can think outside the box, look at other people, how they've done it well, and apply that here in our community. So that's all I have to say on that.
Very good. Thank you all. Next question, taking you into the water and sewer issues. What are your plans for the water sewer issues of Wellington, and could you be specific on price increases? What are your plans for the water sewer issues of Wellington, and specifically, could you talk about price increases?
Well, didn't I get lucky? I think that there are resources out there that have left untapped at this point. I know of several. Water's been a huge issue in the development of the affordable housing. And just to clarify, Habitat homeowners never pay more than 30% of their income for their housing, and the taxpayers don't foot the bill. But water is a huge issue. And so I would look at a lot of those resources that I know of and hopefully bring some of those into town. And then as far as the increases, I would like to see a at least quarterly review of the plan and look at the budget and figure out ways that we can continue to chip away at the debt that we're going to be working towards, to make it so that we don't see those increases on a regular basis. I'd love for the last one to be the last one, and I'll do everything I can to make that possible.
Yeah, so this is going to be a difficult one for us over the next number of years. With the fact that we can't move any more than 10% of the budget from the general fund to the water fund, I think makes things a little bit difficult for us. But there are a number of places that we can kind of look for some of this money. Somebody had mentioned earlier there's about $1.8 million in the water fund that's transferred over to the general fund. That looks like it's just kind of administrative, maybe general expenses. It's not clear to me from the budget what those are necessarily, and I would love to see, just kind of talking about transparency when we were earlier, I would love to know whether that money could be potentially remain in the water fund. My understanding is it's not completely necessary that it's moved from the water fund to the general fund, so I think there is definitely things we can go back and look at and just make sure we've got all our T's dotted and I's dotted and T's crossed.
Could you be so kind as to repeat the question?
Sure. What are your plans for the water treatment sewer issues of Wellington, and specifically speak to the price increases?
I guess the question is it the price increases in rates or the price increases on the actual physical plants?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
It just says, what are your plans for the water sewer issues of Wellington? Specifically, speak to the price increases.
Okay, because the price of the plants has also gone up pretty dramatically just because of the supply chain stuff. Again, I'm a sitting trustee. I was one of the people who voted for the increases in the water rates. I voted for the increase in the sewer rates. Really horrible situations, which is burdensome. I mean, the sad state of affairs is we just happen to be out ahead of other municipalities. This is going to get seen. This is going to repeat itself up and down the Front Range. For communities smaller than us are really going to get hammered. We're in a lot better shape than other people, but that is cold comfort at the end of the day. I mean, I think trying to find federal funds, there's billions of dollars out there. Let's get it for here. Maybe that'll take some of the financing or the burden, lower the burden. The other things, the transfers from the water fund to the general fund are based on administrative costs, covering administrative costs.
Thank you.
Okay, crazy thing, I know a lot about this. I spent like 20 hours on the sewer rate and crash course. Ultimately, so we raised the sewer rates $14 as a roundtable. When we sat down, they were looking at $45 to $55 increases. A lot of outside the box thinking. That's where the general fund transfer came in. As far as the administrative fees, our interim finance director, who is amazing, she is looking at exactly what those are, if they're inflated, if we can decrease them. They don't have to come out as a general rule, but it's best practice that the water and sewer fund pay for themselves. It would be my goal to not increase those rates anymore and to find a way to decrease first, most specifically the water rate. $66 base rate is a lot of money. There's a lot of different outside of the box thinking, federal grants, all of those things. I'm committed to working on that, whether I'm your trustee or just your neighbor.
Wow, so I'm going to talk about this. So I think as soon as the survey comes out, once they do residential versus non-residential water rates, I know in the roundtable it's been discussed that they discussed an equality in the amount of equity in the amount that residents pay compared to non-residents in the water bills. So I think as soon as that rate study comes out, I have a feeling it'll help balance those numbers out a lot. But I also think that when I talked with administration, the 1.8 million that comes and transfers out is utilizing staff that we already have on staff, so we're not hiring more staff just for water. So they split it up between internet, the administrative side of everything, instead of bringing on all their own staff into the water department, is my understanding of how it was explained to me.
So like Lisa, I also know a lot about this because I did sit on the residents roundtable and we'd spent hours, actually months on this project. So one thing that we did do is we looked at grants. So grants are something that we need to be continuously taking advantage of, and not just grants. You're gonna have state legislation, federal legislation that we're able to take opportunities and get money. So we have ARPA funds that were passed last year, and we're getting $2.6 million, 1.3 in two different tranches, I guess is what it's called, that are coming to these water funds to help with these rates. But with the admin fee, it does have, so the water plants are kind of like a nonprofit, so they have to be self-sustaining. So we have to have those admin fees in there, but we can move those admin fees to the general fund for a year or two, and it will help that cost. Like she said, we have a great finance director who's trying to help get the inflation on that admin fee down a little bit. So.
I think I'm gonna mix up how I answer this, but would you please repeat the question one more time? I wanna make sure I
Yes.
answer it correctly.
Yes. What are your plans for the water sewer issues of Wellington, specifically address the price increases?
Okay, so currently sitting on the board and running for mayor, I can tell you right now that the water rates are not gonna go down. But we are working diligently, 7 of us as a team, to stabilize those rates so that you don't experience that significant jump again. That's impossible to plan for. Nobody likes that. That doesn't feel good. So as the mayor, what I'm going to work on to try and stabilize the water and sewer rates is we're gonna continue to look for those grants to help offset the costs of construction. We're gonna look at ways to incentivize conservation. That way we can all be individually accountable. We're gonna look at having accountability and transparency at the trustee level by continuing those roundtable conversations with the people that were engaged from ground one. And we're gonna continue to look for efficiencies in our water enterprise fund by doing a rate study to make sure, triple check, quadruple check, that we didn't have a calculation in error and we're not overcharging you too much for those water and sewer rates.
So yeah, when it comes to the issue of the affordability of water and those rates, I mean, it's been said, grants obviously are going to be really important. We're going to need to have somebody looking into those, going through all of that. Right now, we don't have somebody who does grants full time. Now, that may be another expense that would be worth the town spending so we can take advantage of those grants, something we can look into. And then the best practices with the administration's money that has to move in and out. You know, it may not be best practice, but for the moment in time, it might be worth doing something like that where we keep it in there for a few years, we promote business growth, we get businesses here, and then they can help offset that cost to the citizens themselves. We just got to go about it responsibly. We need to look at the numbers and we need to dig into it. So that's what I would do as mayor.
Okay, thank you.
I was talking to Patty on this too, and one thing we do not have is a full-time grant writer. And one thing that she is looking at doing, the finance person that they're looking at bringing on, being extremely versed at that. We have to have somebody there. I mean, if money's out there trying to help offset it, we have to take as much advantage as we can do that. Other thing, and I think it's, I've mentioned it before about having a water board. We need experts there. We don't need to have the problem come to the trustee and them trying to figure it out, because we're not engineers. You know, they're not, there's so much into this anymore with all the legal ramifications. We have to have people that live that stuff day in and day out. And we have so many people here in the community that are very versed in it and that can really support this community community at this part.
Okay, with that said, I'm trying to keep you on the topic of water and sewer just for a moment because that seems to be a hot topic. There are other questions, but I'll try to help you stay focused with some of this. It says, the comp plan says that the town will grow to 40,000 in 20 years, but the plant expansion only covers a population of 25,000, which means another plant expansion will likely be needed before the current project is paid off. How do you plan to fund the second expansion, and what population do you want the town to grow to?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. Honestly, we need to make sure that we're staying proactive about these things, right? As the town grows, we need to continue to make sure that if there are, future expansions that we need to look at down the road, that we've got those in mind well before we get to the point that we actually need them, right? So obviously, being proactive about these types of things. I think it would be beneficial, maybe potentially for us to slow growth for a while on the residential side, certainly continue to promote business growth. Those guys are going to help us pay for some of this stuff as far as their tax revenues. So I think it would be important that, like I said, we promote business growth and are proactive about these things and looking at them down the road. We don't want to be caught with our pants down like we kind of were with the water situation. So.
Yeah, so the current plan for the wastewater treatment plant is phase 3, and they are talking about ultimately building it out on a phase 4. Town currently owns, we currently in our water portfolio own enough water at current consumption rates to support 22,000 people is what we got right now. Now, whether water is going to become, water is going to become more expensive just to buy it here. It's just going to keep. But the other thing let's talk about the debt service on the wastewater treatment plant. So there's actually a whole series of stacked debts on that from multiple projects, years in a row. So there's like 3 or 4 debts, there's 3 or 4 debts on wastewater. And the new plan is to create enough money, save up money because we haven't been able to do it, but basically we'd be able to pay off that debt before we'd start the next round.
Okay, so I'm not sure I want to see 40,000 people here in my lifetime, but that isn't entirely up to me. That's up to all of you as well. However, as far as the debt service is what Tim was talking about, one of the things that growth does bring is tap fees. And tap fees go into a sinking fund, and that sinking fund is meant to pay off the current loan and pay for the first half of any expansion that might need to happen. So there's a lot of proactive pre-planning. Those tap fees are paid by developers, whether it's business or residential developers. But I want to say it's important to know that tax dollars cannot pay for water and sewer. It's like literally against the law. So the only thing that can pay for that is rates and tap fees. So there has to be some growth, you guys, and I know you don't really want to hear that, but it can be responsible growth and smart growth.
Okay, so our next water plant is due for the next phase, as Tim was saying, to 2037, and that is at about 25,000 people. So the issue what you hit with that is we're taking a 30-year loan note out for this new expansion. We won't have that one paid off, and in 2037 we'll be needing that phase 4. So preemptive planning states that yes, we do have to have growth. We do have to have these tap fees, as they are saying, for the funding to go into that sinking fund. But truly, our growth does need to slow, or we'll be looking at another expansion before we're done paying this one off.
So I'm going to say a lot of similar things, but the sinking fund is one thing that the town did great this time is they did create a sinking fund. So the sinking fund will help pay for the future plant expansions, and it won't come out of taxpayer dollars, which is awesome. We do need to make sure that we're growing responsibly. And then for the 30-year loan, one of the big questions that was asked about the residents roundtable was, do we want to do a 20-year loan or do we want to do a 30-year loan? We decided to do a 30-year loan because if we did a 20-year loan, it would have made the increase a lot more on us currently, so we've been front-loading that. So we were trying to avoid that because our hope is with that 30 years, we will have more access to grants, more access to state legislation, federal legislation, just making sure that we're turning over everything so we can pay for that stuff and it's not being laid on the taxpayers.
So I believe that this was a two-part question. One was about the maximum number of population growth in the community. That one's a quick, easy question. Do I want to see it get to above 20,000? Absolutely not. What is small town about that? Absolutely nothing. That's why we have to be extremely intentional about our growth. The second part to the question was if we have to have an expansion to our water treatment plant or additional growth in the community, how are we going to fund that? Well, there are a lot of exciting water projects going on in the area. Future water plants, water distribution systems, and access to our water facilities doesn't solely have to fall on the responsibility of the town of Wellington. There are opportunities for us to partner with our neighboring water providers, ELCO, Northern Colorado Water, North Weld, for expansion into our distribution system in other areas of our community.
Excuse me. Thought my
Yeah, so when it comes to the population growth, none of us, I hope none of us, want to see it get to 40,000 that fast. And then when it comes to water to support those in the plants that we have, I'll touch back on what she said. There are the water resources around us. I know there's a pipeline that's going to be coming down from Wyoming along I-25 through that corridor. There's possibilities of us talking to them and tapping into that and making that work for our community. We don't have to rely on everything we're treating here when we start to grow and if we hit that bridge. But we just need to be proactive. We need to look at all the options and just budget and plan and, you know, think outside the box when it comes to it. But there are a lot of things that are coming down, and there are other ways we can get our water to minimize that cost and to help the town itself.
All the above, but one thing I believe is that the citizens, the current businesses should not be funding future growth, okay? Whatever, you know, when they start developing, you know, okaying developments that's coming into town, we need to have the rates, the calculations, so they pay for what they're gonna cost us down the road. We, you know, as a community here, you know, you don't want to see negative growth. You don't want to see outrageous growth. I come from a town back in Illinois that was 100,000 people back in 1980, and now there's 65,000. So if you overtax people, if you get too burdensome, you're going to start losing people. So we need to have good, controlled growth.
I like to see smart growth. And again, I believe in strategy, strategy, strategy. So plan now for the expansion. Find ways that we can be self-sustainable in that area. There are resources. We've mentioned grants 100 times. Other municipalities have been charging, Greeley charges almost over $45,000 for a water tap. So had we been proactive about this in the beginning and charging that same amount, our water fund would have a lot more funds in it at this point. So I'd like to look at staying not only competitive, but charging those developer fees, water and sewer taps, so that we can build up those funds. And then also looking at making sure that we can start saving now, again, and find a way to budget for new shares, because like Tim said, it is a huge problem. They're going for over $60,000 now, and we will need more water eventually. Also, other municipalities are starting to halt the building permits, so all these things will slow the growth.
Staying with the discussion of water, what are your thoughts about the water base rate being the same for all residents? And what, if anything, do you want to change about the water rate structure?
Boy, that's an easy question. So you asked about the water base rate and the water tier structure, correct?
Yes.
What was the specific question about the base rate? Was
Let me read the question again, because it is kind of two difficult parts. What are your thoughts about the water base rate being the same for all residents? And what, if anything, do you want to change about the water rate structure currently?
Well, we have actually talked, I've talked with Patty Garcia, our town administrator, about can we do, again, the word I think they used was equity? Equity. You know, does everyone pay the same rate? And so I think at this point right now, I don't believe we have the granularity of detail to say, okay, you're on a fixed income and therefore you could, I mean, I think it's something worth looking at, but I think right now, currently, it's in just the discussion phase. As for changing the tier rates, there was some discussion of changing them, compressing them, lowering the numbers between each tier, and that was put off this year because we put the $1.3 million in the water fund. So again, there's a lot of moving parts on those things when you start looking at how you change these numbers and how that flows through to the income side of it all. So I don't know, so there's a real easy answer for that.
Okay, so the big word equitable that everybody keeps looking at me at just means that if y'all have to pay 20% more on your bill, then everyone should be paying 20% more. That might be $20 for you. It might be $100 for someone else. It's just about being fair, that everybody's paying their own way, their fair share. I do think that I would like to look into a program that helps our seniors, our disabled veterans. I mean, I feel like we owe that to them. They serve their country. But ultimately, the tier compression or the difference in the tier structure, I don't know if I'm a big fan of that. I think we need to reward the people that stay at 4,000 gallons or less when we can in the winter months, not counting people who have to water their lawns. I know that's a problem, but I think it all needs to be looked at much more closely to make it more affordable for all of you, because nobody likes a $200 to $400 or $500 water bill.
Right. 241. I'm almost positive that was my water bill last month. So the thought about water base rate for being the same for all residents. Yes, I agree. The base rate should be the same for all of the residents. I feel that there is a difference between, again, residential and non-residential tap fees, because non-residential tap fees, I mean, some of their taps start at $126 for their base rate. But they're also, they don't have the tiers like we do. They can use 300,000 gallons of water a month, and they still pay $5.49 per 1,000 gallons. So I think that's when you look at trying to figure out if residents are covering a lot of the extra usage that's coming out of non-residential taps. So I think that that survey is going to demonstrate a lot of what's being used for residential versus non-residential.
So we do definitely need to, and I agree with Lisa on this one, where we need to make sure that we're looking at it as an equitable base rate for anyone. And that's I think for that we need to utilize our citizen roundtables. The citizen roundtable for the wastewater that I sit on is not going away. We're actually going to keep, the trustees have asked for us to stay in place and to be utilized. So, I mean, that's something that I want to make sure that it is constantly looked at, and we continue to use these roundtables so we can look at, you know, tier rates and base rates in the future, and hopefully not have to raise that stuff ever again. So I think that's what we need to make sure we're utilizing those roundtables heavily.
It was a complicated two-part question. Would you please
Yes.
repeat it?
Be glad to. What are your thoughts about the water base rate being the same for all residents? And what, if anything, do you want to change about the water rate structure?
So base rates being equitable, yes. I do think that they should be equitable amongst residents based on what you use. I also think that it's not just about being equitable with the residents, about also being equitable on the businesses. We noticed that, the business base rates needed to be addressed along with the residential base rates. But like our citizens, we don't want to overtax or overfee our citizens for our sewer and base rates. And so this rate study is really going to tell us if all of the research and homework that we've done as a board of trustees, as our staff, and as our citizens roundtable, as to whether or not the tiers that options that we've put in place are going to be doable, or if they're a good option. Something that I'd really like to point out that I thought was important from the roundtable that I think that people need to speak more about is, do you want to see these rates happen incrementally, or do you want to see them happen all at one time? What is better for your situation and for your budgeting? Thank you.
So the equitable base rate, I think, obviously, we all agree that's the great way to go. When it comes to adjusting the tiers, I honestly don't know enough to speak to whether I could do that or not. I will listen to the people. If you guys want us to do the research and to figure out a way that we can get that done, or if we even can get it done, then that's something I'm willing to pursue. But I don't know enough to say how I would go about it or what you would want. I would need more feedback from the community itself before I could move forward with that.
I pretty much agree with you on that. As far as equitable, yes, we need to make sure that it's affordable and we have a good base rate there. Businesses, as they use, if they use a lot more, yeah, we need to look at the tier system. But we don't want to run out the businesses in the same process there. We need to keep reviewing it all the time on it, yearly. And again, we got to make sure whatever it is, we got to encourage businesses to come in. We may lose a little bit of money as far as income off the water, but if we can get the tax base built up from the businesses, we should be looking at that too.
So anytime you're dealing with such a complex issue, first and foremost, I think it's important that we continue to evaluate. That doesn't mean we're going to stop in a year. It means we continue to look at these studies and we continue to evaluate what it is we're doing. I think that tap fees base rate should be equitable, but we should look at tap size for that equitability. If you have a larger tap, you're going to be using more water, you're going to be servicing more people or more land, and so we just need to look at how that usage is occurring. For the tiers, I would explore what federal funding out there is available to support caps for fixed income, the disabled, veterans, low income. Find ways that we can keep our families in this town from being cost burdened, and I'll die on that hill.
Yeah, so do agree with a lot of the things that have been said here. Firstly, the base rate, I do think we should keep that equitable. The fact of the matter is, certainly we've got some folks that are certainly burdened by some pretty heavy bills right now, but the fact of the matter is if we start discounting the base rate for certain groups of folks, the fact of the matter is that money just is not going to be back into the water fund. So we need to make sure the base rate kind of stays there. But as far as caps and that sort of thing, I think I would kind of agree, potentially there's things we could look into as far as making it so that residents aren't burdened with excessive bills, especially, seniors and that sort of thing. As far as tier compression goes, I don't agree with tier compression. I think the numbers I had seen last as far as the sewer stuff was we were looking at kind of moving that tier from about 10,000 gallons in the first tier down to about 3,000 gallons. With a family of 4, I'm just not sure who spends under 3,000 gallons, and so who's going to fall into that first tier would be my question.
Okay, I believe we're on the next question then. And we'll go away from the water for just a minute here. We might have some that comes back if we have time, but would like to ask this question. Do you believe that it is ethical for for the town of Wellington to contract with any company that is connected to our town employees, mayor, or trustees.
Well, that's easy. No. I think that it's, as the town grows, we have to be mindful that our job, if we're elected, is to represent you all. And if we have an interest in any way, shape, or form with a company that's doing business approved by this board, that's a problem. That's where corruption leaks in. That's where fiscal irresponsibility shows its face and numbers can't be accounted for. And suddenly we're all scrambling, right? And I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired of scrambling. So I think it needs to be just an absolute no. If you're gonna have a conflict, then you choose the business or serving your community. And there's no judgment either way, but you can't have your cake and eat it too.
I'm going to agree with the yes, I feel it is unethical to pair or partner. If you are sitting on the board as a trustee, you should not be accepting contracts or working for companies that accept contracts from the town of Wellington. I would assume that's common sense. I signed a document as I had agreed to run for trustee that we would no longer be able to contract with the town of Wellington if I were to sit on the trustee board. I'm totally fine with that. We'll just donate our time. But kind of at the end of the day, when you look at it, that should apply for other boards. It should apply for nonprofits. It should apply for businesses.
So yeah, I think we're all going to agree on this one. Absolutely should not be doing any ties. I work in supply chain. I would, in supply chain world is a nightmare, like most people know, but I would never want to utilize my business as something that is tied to the town. I just don't think it's something that looks good. And if there happens to be a conflict of interest, that person should step away like a judge would do or something, and you don't have decisions on that process. What's nice is most of the contracts that we do is we make sure that we get multiple looks at we're looking at like 3 different businesses and we compare rates and all that fun stuff. So yeah, I would hope that none of us ever run into that problem.
Well, that's a great question, and they make a section specifically for that on our agenda in every meeting. There's an opportunity in every board meeting, if there's any conflict of interest, whether it's actual or perceived, a trustee or the mayor has the opportunity to disclose that information. There is a specific procedure for handling those situations because there are times when conflict does come up where it doesn't necessarily fit into the definition of conflict of interest. However, in this circumstance, we are talking about a business interest or financial gain specifically to one individual, and that should not be allowed. That is an unethical practice. But I did want to provide, that there is that opportunity, or there are situations that do come up. And I think that being open and transparent about those situations, especially in the board meetings during that opportunity, is extremely important for building trust and transparency with the community members.
So I do stand with everybody else on this. I'm a man of integrity, honesty. I would never go about doing anything that would hurt this town or be backsided. My hands get dirty because I work with my hands, not because I'm greasing palms. So that's all you need to know about me.
I absolutely agree with everybody else on that. You definitely cannot have conflict of interest in this type of stuff here in the city. If you have the perception, then it's reality. So we cannot even go to that point.
I too agree that it should not be allowed. I think we should look at our town and the decisions we make sort of as we have to look at different infrastructure issues we come across. There's been talk of Davis-Bacon, which is a process of getting 3 at least competitive bids if you are accessing X amount of federal funding. And so I'd like to see that process go across the board for town auditors and for the lawyers and anyone that the town hires to do that type of work, whether it be building the power or the water sewer plant, you know, accessing enough bids and information so that we're not only covering ourselves and making sure we get the most competitive rate, but it should always be service before self and not self-serving.
Yeah, so obviously I agree with everybody here. The fact of the matter is, you know, board members do need to serve with integrity, and you know, special interest, conflicts of interest, none of those have a place for a board of trustees or a mayoral position. It was mentioned here earlier that the fact of the matter is, during the board meetings, you are required to call out whether you have special interests or conflicts of interest, and you know, that's the process that should be followed, right? We should be making sure that that is not a thing in this town. So once again, I agree with all of that, and just call that out now. I don't have any conflicts of interest currently, and certainly if something was to come up, I would make that very clear, and that, so.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I wouldn't, well, I agree with everybody here. I personally wouldn't bid on any town work here just because it's a nightmare. Well, no, it's a paperwork, you know. It's working with municipalities is a little different than working with a private client. The thing I will just say is that we do have we have purchasing policies in place that, again, typically you have to get a minimum of 3 bids. And then there's a review committee, depending on what it is, but they might go through it, and it's not just a cost basis, it's the team that they're bringing to it, the experience. And sometimes it may be the lowest price, and sometimes it might be the best team of like engineers to build a $30 million water treatment plant. So those things are in place, and in the past, actually, I think Trustee McDonald asked to see the evaluation matrix for a vendor on something specific. So there is backup on that as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next question is, I think it's really a good question. So what do you think are the top 4 responsibilities of a town? The top 4 responsibilities of a town.
Of the town or of the trustees?
Of a town.
Got it. So I would say number 1 is providing public safety. That is actually a constitutional upstanding that we are protecting our citizens. I'd say, gosh, so safety, responsibility of providing an appropriate, well-planned out budget, making sure that we're not dipping into fund balance if we're not required to do so. That's accounting for performance management. There is no system set up right now to manage performance. I understand they just did their first evaluations of employees here for the first time in a very long time. So I'm happy for the town employees that actually had those evaluations accomplished. And I would say that ensuring residents are being heard is pretty much what I would say as far as the town functioning goes.
I just wanted to say, I like this question. I also think that we've answered a lot of this question already, so which is good. I think the top 4 responsibilities is definitely first being the community. Are we listening to the community? Are we being engaged with the community? Is the community involved with everything? And safety is also a top priority. Are we providing a safe environment? With the new high school going in, they're going to be across the railroad tracks. How do we make that a safer environment for high school kids who are going to be driving cars where we haven't had to think about that yet? So that's something that is definitely on the foremind of a lot of people. And then transparency is another thing. When we've already discussed this, transparency is huge. So, and then the last thing, I'm being timed, so the last thing I just wanted to mention was responsible growth.
Okay, 4 things that the town is responsible for. Being responsible with taxpayer dollars, providing public safety, providing a sense of community, and all around providing quality of life for the citizens.
So I think I can pretty much sum it up with one word, and I'd say that's servanthood. I mean, we're up here to serve you guys. That is all encompassing. That comes down to the safety, that comes down to community, that comes down to the infrastructure, all of it. We're here to serve you, and that's our responsibility as a town.
I think safety is probably one of the top things that we need to be concerned about here. We've seen things escalate a little bit around this, so I think it's going to keep escalating, and we need to make sure that we have the people in place to make sure that we do have a safe community. Spending the tax money properly. We need to make sure that, you know, every dollar is spent to the most efficient way. You know, taxpayers, we don't have unlimited pocketbooks. We need to make sure that the city respects that, the town respects that, and that the money gets spent properly at that point. And again, it's servanthood, I think, is a great thing there. You know, we as the city, as the people that work for the city, work for the city. The people don't work for the city, okay? So it's again, it's giving back.
So the 4 responsibilities of the town: communication and community. Obviously, we've said transparency, but that's that outreach, that's that engagement, that's hearing the people and getting them involved and getting them excited to be a part of that process. And then staying competitive by planning strategically, looking at every single angle and making sure that you pick the very best one. And if you can't find the best one, doing the work and putting in the time to find the best solution that serves every single individual in this town. Looking at the safety of the community, obviously we want to plan, and that doesn't mean just police force or sheriffs. That means looking at how we can provide stability and safety for the individuals in this town, not just for this year or today, but for the future as well. And then quality of life, absolutely. The events that bring us all together, the things that we can be proud of, the joyous times that we share as a community that make us look like this picture-perfect town on TV. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, so I think the top 4 for the town, in my opinion, are, public safety. Already that's been mentioned a number of times here. Infrastructure, as far as the water, transportation, as far as the school situation, and really just kind of overall being proactive about these things, right? We really need to make sure that we're looking at these things long-term and being able to make the right decisions. So the next one I'd have would be responsible, sustainable growth, right? Making sure that if we are going to grow, that we're going to be able to pay for our obligations and be able to take care of those things. Responsibility for our tax dollars and being fiscally responsible. Obviously, that's a big one for the town too, right? We really need to make sure that all of that money is going to the places that it needs to go. And then finally, I'd say there's the number one thing I think for the board really is, listening to the residents and being transparent, right? We need to be able to, take your guys' input and make the most appropriate decisions. So and be transparent. So.
Well, it's going to sound like the same list, not quite. Public safety, which is, Larimer County Sheriff's at this point. I would say infrastructure like clean water and sewer. Those are town utilities, and those, not only do we have to do that for ourselves, we actually have to do that for other people who are downstream of us. So I think the other thing the town needs to do, where it's important, is to invest prudently. And when I say that is spending money in an appropriate manner, like keeping up with the maintenance, saying, oh, well, if we can fix it today instead of fix it in 10 years, if it's appropriate. So, because again, I think the longer you leave things, sometimes they can spiral, so.
Okay, so first I want to clarify, all of us in here are the town. We have this amazing staff that work for us. So as a town, our priorities should be hiring and retaining the best staff that we can to do the job that we ask them to do with every precious taxpayer dollar that we have. That includes the wastewater and the water treatment facility, the engineers, the guys that have to wear the safety equipment, get in those chemicals, the safety factor of our roads and the infrastructure and the street repairs. That's very important. Maintaining the sense of community that we have with all of the different activities and all the different connections, farmers markets, those things are the job of the town. And most importantly, making sure that all of our voices, all of our values are represented every day in this town.
Okay, about 10 minutes left, and so the last portion will be to allow you to speak on anything you would like to, any of the topics that you feel like didn't get spoken to well enough, or potentially something that's new, a new topic. We didn't get through all of the questions, but I tried to get through the topics of all the questions. So with that said, we're just going to begin again from the left to the right. And so we'll just let you start and have another 1 minute time frame to speak on anything that you would like to speak on that you feel like we, the public, need to hear. Okay?
The first thing I want to say is listening to all of us for this last 2 hours is we all actually have pretty much the same ideas. We just might have a different philosophy of how we want to get there. But it's pretty awesome to know that your town is going to be, our town is going to be in really good hands, I think, these next 4 years. This is everyone that has stepped up, that lives in this town, that is, wanting to serve you. And it's pretty exciting to hear that a lot of these answers are very similar and we have the same passion. So I think that's awesome. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention, this middle high school that's opening in August, I think is a really good morale boost for this town. I'm very, very excited that they're opening up and we're gonna have a high school and can do, Friday night lights and theater programs and all this other fun stuff. So I hope you, as a community, are excited for that too. And thank you.
I just want to say thank you again so much to John and Christine Gator for putting this on. This was a really great venue and a great experience, and some really great questions have come out of this forum. And thank you to our moderator as well for working through the logistics and the confusion as we went. I think we all kind of evolved very well through that. And that kind of takes me on to some of my closing statements here. The difference between serving as a trustee and as a mayor. As a trustee, you kind of have your individual pet projects, your visions, the things that define you individually. And then you take those target items and you work to accomplish them during your 4 years. And what's different being the mayor is that you have an opportunity to champion and support those trustees through that vision. So through this election, our community has the opportunity to elect officials that represent their vision. And then as the mayor, my goal is to help those trustees execute that vision. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, the Gators. Thank you, all of you, for being here, for making this a great community forum. Thanks for your questions. All I have to say is I love this town. I've been here for a really long time. I grew up here. I would love to raise kids here. So I just want to make sure that it goes in the right direction and that we can maintain this community that we have here and continue to let it prosper into what I know it can be and what it should be. And there are a lot of great candidates up here. I really don't see you going wrong, but I would love your vote.
I want to thank you guys for letting us be in front of you today. It was a great opportunity. One thing with Wellington, we are not just a bedroom community of Fort Collins. We're a very unique town. We got great businesses. We got great people here, and we should be very, very proud of that. And one thing too, I think our town does listen, and we got a great community, whether it's the youth, whether it's the elderly, whether it's us senior citizens, whatever, but we got to make sure that it always stay affordable and that we don't have to leave. So it's my vision.
So I would like to start by saying Yes, lumber prices, supply chains, construction materials have gone up over 130% since COVID, but affordable housing is still possible, and we can still do it. We're working on a 491 unit development of affordable homes. That means no more than 30% of your income, and it can happen. So it's not a matter of how, but if you're willing to put in the creativity to make it happen. Here's the most important thing. I am not a politician. I'm a mom of 4, I have a full-time job, and I'm here because I want to serve you. I want to listen to you, I want to get to know you, and I thoroughly enjoy this process. So please, I do have a website, Lowry for Wellington Trustee, if you want to get to know a little bit more about me, see my family, and just learn why I'm running, but it's for you. So thank you for being here, and thank you for listening, and thank you for being a part of this.
Yeah, so once again, I'd just like to thank the church, all the town residents that have down here tonight, John, Christine, really appreciate you guys putting on the forum. Yeah, I think, just to add to all the things kind of that have been said tonight, I want to make sure that Wellington's pro-resident, pro-business, make sure that we're fiscally responsible for things. And, make sure that Wellington remains a place that we all want to call home. I think it's important that the citizens are able to talk to the trustees about issues that are on their mind, that sort of thing. I think on the town, well, let's see. I'm not sure if, well, either way, my website is mason4trustee, the number 4.com. You can go there. I think my phone number is listed on there as well as my email address, so you can feel free to write me or give me a call at any time. And once again, like I said, I'm usually out and about at most local businesses. I don't spend very much time at home, as it turns out. So if you see me out and about and you want to talk about an issue, let me know.
Well, again, I'd like to thank all the people who organized this, all the people who braved the lovely weather that we're getting right now, because it's getting colder. So, I mean, I've been at this for a few years, and I have to say, the town's gone through some challenges, and I think we're coming out. I think we're going to come out. I think we're going to get past this next couple of years. It's still going to be a little hard, but I think we're going to grow out of this, and I think we are going to be set for the future. I mean, that's what I think. And here's a shameless plug. My website is Tim Whitehouse for Wellington. Again, I've been doing this a little while. I'd like your vote. If you want to talk to me, be around after this. So, yeah, thank you.
All right, y'all, thanks for coming out here. Like Lowry, I'm not a politician. I'm literally probably your neighbor. I work for myself, so I have lots of open time if anybody wants to talk. I do not have a website yet, but I have an easy email. It's lisa@lisacholet.com. So if anybody wants to set up a time to talk, I'd love to grab a coffee, whatever. I'm here to make sure that your voice is heard at every meeting and to represent you guys and to fight to keep the water and sewer low and to make sure our construction projects are run on budget and under budget. If we can keep them under budget, we save money. We need to save money every dime that we can. That's what I do. I just feel like my background and my passion can be of service to this community. I really hope that you guys choose to vote for me. If you have any questions, just grab me or call me. I have it on my Facebook page. My phone number is on there, so. Yeah, I'm done.
I know the beep, but she was saying goodbye. So, I'm, again, Sherelle Teets, and I've been in this community for an extended period of time. I'm not going to plug my website. There's a flyer out in the hall if you guys want more information with me. If you want to reach out to me, I'm always available. I can make time. You just have to hang with a 4-year-old as well. But what I would really like to say is I am here because I feel like there's some things that are not being listened to in our town. I feel we're doing some amazing things correctly, but I feel it can get better, and I know we can do better here in Wellington. So I think that at the end of the day is the goal of the reason why I am here is I want to represent the community, but genuinely represent the community where people aren't coming to these trustee meetings speaking and feeling like when you walk out that you weren't heard at all. I don't know if anyone else has felt that, but I have definitely felt that. So it's been wonderful. Thank you so much for hosting us, Pastor, and all of your hard work, Christine and John, and thank you so much for the voter's guide. I thought it was an amazing thing to be able to have to connect with the community.
Okay, great. Two last things really quickly. You guys did a great job, and you stayed on topic. You watched the time. Thank you for coming out and doing such a great job. Appreciate you very much. And as you have said, I appreciate my friend John and Christina. When John called and asked if we could do this here, I said, absolutely. We're very community-minded, and we just want to say thank you to you two. Can we give it up for them as well? Third and final thing, understand this, that I know I speak for all of the pastors and churches of our community. We get together, try to get together nearly monthly, that we pray for our town officials. And we want you to know that we're lifting you up in prayer. That's important to us. That's why we're here, and that's what we do. So just know that your church and the church communities are praying for our town officials. That's very important to us.
All right, so thank you to all of you. You guys did amazing. I thought we were gonna get through like 6 questions. You guys rammed through 10 questions. That was amazing. Great job. We kept it positive. Thank you, thank you. And to all of you, I cannot tell you how excited I am, having served on the board for the last 2 years, to see this many citizens come out to hear what's going on with your potential future leaders. This is what is needed. These men and women up here, you got to talk with them, get to know them. Most of them hopefully have some information you can get outside. Talk to them. We have a stack of questions we didn't get through. I will try to get scans of those out to everyone. And if you want to, on your own websites or whatever, answer those. I'll let you guys handle that. We did record tonight, so I will try to get the raw video out to all of you guys. Don't know how big that is, so I'll figure that out later. But just want to thank everyone again for coming out, and there are a lot of opportunities. Get to talk with these people so you can really make an informed decision. And election day is? April 5th. And ballots will be coming out within the next 3 weeks or so, March 14th. So you can either vote via mail or you can fill out your ballot, bring it by town hall, and drop it off. So thank you guys. You can chat a few minutes. We don't want to keep the church here all night. So if we can try to wrap up fairly quickly, that would be great. Thank you so much.